Welcome back to another video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and while you down there, comment what your favorite day of the week is. It is a beautiful Sunday, and we are going to watch the software error that killed 6 people. Oy. The content of this video for information purposes only, based on believed reliable sources. They may not be current or fully accurate. Viewers should do their own research and not solely rely on the information. We're not liable for any inaccuracies or omissions. I do not condone, endorse, or encourage any of the behaviors or activities shown. I urge everyone to always act responsibly and within the bounds of the law. All materials in the video fall within the fair use provision of Section 107 of the Copyright 1976 for purposes like criticism, comment, education, no infringement intended. I had to read that just for my video's sake.
To the naked eye, the Therac 25 looked like any other hospital machine. It was used to provide radiation treatment to cancer patients, but hidden inside its code was a tiny mistake that transformed this machine from a lifesaver to a silent killer. To make matters worse, the flaw was so small that for years, no one even realized it was there. It wasn't until bodies started piling up that investigators began putting the pieces together. But while some tried to reveal the truth, others did everything to keep the machine running, leading to the loss of more and more lives. The most interesting part of all of this is how something so deadly could hide in plain sight for so long. This is how a simple computer code mistake killed 6 people. Its first victim. It was June 3rd, 1985, and something terrible was about to happen at the Kennestone Oncology Center in Georgia. That day, 61-year-old Katie Yarborough was receiving radiation treatment for cancer. This wasn't her first session, so she knew what to expect. Katie was being treated with a machine called the Therac 25. Patients would lie down on a treatment table, and the machine would release just enough radiation to destroy cancer cells without harming healthy tissue. The hospital staff would be in another room using a computer to control how much radiation was used. It was a very precise process with no room for mistakes. But that day, the worst mistake was about to happen. As soon as the machine was turned on, Katie felt a tremendous force of heat in her body. Radiotherapy wasn't supposed to feel like this. No one realized it, but Katie just received a massive overdose of radiation, about 100 times higher than what she was supposed to get. To give you an idea, she was exposed to between 10,000 and 20,000 rad, similar to what happens during a nuclear disaster, not a regular medical protocol. After the session was over, Katie accused the technician of burning her during the procedure. But instead of taking Katie seriously, the hospital staff acted like she was making stuff up. According to the machine, the treatment was completely normal. The only indication something went wrong was the pain Katie claimed she felt. It was Katie's word against the machine. Although no one believed her, Katie was right. The Therac 25 malfunctioned in the worst way possible, and soon the evidence would start to show. In the days that followed, Katie noticed that the area where she was treated became red, and she was also experiencing other health issues. Within 2 weeks, she was rushed to the emergency room where doctors tried to save her. The staff at the treatment center refused to believe the Therac 25 could malfunction, so they assumed Katie's sudden health problems were symptoms of her illness. But someone had a different opinion. The facility's physicist was worried that the machine might have hurt Katie, just like she said. To find out, he called AECL Medical, which was the company that made the machine. He wanted to know if the Therac 25 could give too much radiation while still displaying a lower dose on the computer. The manufacturer replied 3 days later, saying the Therac 25 was not capable of delivering an overdose of radiation. In other words, there was no way their machine could have hurt the patient. Katie Yarborough didn't make it. She was the first victim of the Therac 25, but she wouldn't be the last. This machine, created to save lives, would soon become the biggest.
What type of testing process did they put this machine through and the code through to vet it properly? Did they create any type of redundancy? Are there any firmware updates? Or did they just create this machine, create the code, push it out there, and never touch it again? Like, how many people went through this and probably thought, hey, the heat is normal, or maybe they're just cranking it up this one time, and didn't go and report their symptoms like Katie did. So I'm wondering if there are more victims of this machine and this malfunction that aren't covered or reported because nobody brought it up or thought to include them, and maybe they displayed symptoms of the flu, and when they went to the hospital and they passed away, they're like, oh, they had the flu, they passed away because of that. So this really got my mind going to think about how massive this malfunction could B, and how many people were impacted by it. Let's see what else the video got for us, because we got 5 more victims.
Nightmare in medical history. A tragic flaw. In the 1980s, the Therac 25 was one of the most popular machines for treating cancer. It was a radiation therapy machine that could be controlled by a computer, a huge improvement over older machines that needed manual adjustments. It was so impressive, the doctors were calling it a state-of-the-art medical wonder. However, buried inside the machine's code was a bug that went undetected by everyone. The Therac 25 software had a coding error called a race condition. A race condition occurs when a device attempts to perform 2 or more operations or tasks at the same time. The race condition in the Therac 25 caused the machine to glitch, releasing radiation doses that were hundreds of times greater than normal. Other machines, like the Therac 6 and Therac 20, had safety features that stopped them from working if there was a problem. However, the Therac 25 was the first radiotherapy device entirely controlled by software. This meant that it had no hardware safety features. The computer was supposed to keep track of the machine and shut things down if it detected a dangerous situation, but without built-in safety interlocks, the machine would go crazy if the software had a bug. As bad as that sounds, the Therac 25 had even more problems. The machine software was written by a programmer who didn't have much experience. The code had very few comments, and there was no sign that proper tests had been done. Fixing the code wasn't going to be easy either, because the mysterious programmer who wrote the messy code no longer worked for the company and could not be found. However, those using the machine had no clue about these issues. Instead, they were trained to believe that the machine had many safety mechanisms that would make it virtually impossible to overdose the patients. By 1983, 5 Therac 25s were installed in the United States and 6 in Canada. And for 2 years and thousands of patients, they worked perfectly. Then suddenly, in 1985, the machines started malfunctioning and blasting patients with too much radiation. But everyone trusted the medical device so much that they didn't realize the danger was hiding in plain sight. 1 month after the first accident, it happened again, except this time it was far more serious. The cover-up. It was June 26, 1985 at the Ontario Cancer Foundation, Canada. 40-year-old Frances Hill was being treated with a Therac 25. It wasn't going to end well. The machine blasted Frances with too much radiation. Her injuries were so bad she needed a complete hip replacement, but she never got the opportunity to do that. Just 4 months later, Frances passed away. The technicians were finally sure that Frances was given too much radiation from the machine, but when they checked the computer, it said that she was given the right dose of radiation. To get to the bottom of this, the hospital staff contacted AECL Medical, the company that manufactured the device. When AECL executives heard about this second problem, they were worried. The company made millions from selling and maintaining Therac 25 machines for hospitals. They didn't want to lose their moneymaker, so they sent out one of their best service engineers to the hospital to investigate. This is one of the most upsetting parts of the story. After the second incident, AECL knew that there might be something wrong with their machine, but they didn't pull the machines from use or warn the other hospitals to be careful. The machines remained in operation. Instead, they just sent a service engineer and waited for his report. Meanwhile, people in other hospitals were still using the machine, risking their lives. So what did the engineer discover when he looked into the Therac 25? Did he find the killer code? ACL's engineer arrived at the facility and ran multiple tests on the machine. However, it seemed like the long trip was just a waste of time, because everything was working perfectly. He carefully ran test after test, but each time, the Therac 25 behaved as expected. Since he couldn't pinpoint the problem, he decided to guess what could possibly cause the machine to malfunction. He figured the only way such an overdose could happen was if some parts inside the machine were in the wrong position. For example, if the scanning magnets or X-ray target weren't lined up correctly, the patient could be hit with a strong beam of radiation. To solve this problem, the engineer redesigned the micro switch circuit, allowing the computer to identify if something went wrong. The company also added the modification to all Therac 25 machines in other hospitals. However, AECL didn't tell other hospitals that 2 patients had already been injured. They just made it seem like they were upgrading the machine. AECL Medical breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that they had solved the problem. But that was far from the truth, because the accidents were about to get worse. Barely.
Ooh, I know this company doesn't exist no more, but the integrity is non-existent. These people, in exchange for money, were willing to allow people to die. Allow people to die. They knew that people were dying and having complications and that there was an error, but they chose not to tell any other hospitals and give the hospitals the ability to decide if they want to continue to use this product or not, just for money. And they only had 5 machines in the US and 6 in Canada, so how are they making all this money? I'm not getting it. This is why I understand why people have problems with the healthcare system, especially, it's a big talk now, especially after Brian Thompson or Thomas has passed away and he's no longer with us. People really are questioning the healthcare system, and cases like this, even from 1980s, kind of confirms people's suspicion in their questioning of the medical health industry. Goodness gracious, I can't get my words proper. But they put out a little fix in the settings instead of actually looking for the problem. They had, it seems like, one main programmer write most of the code with no comments. They didn't follow any coding practices, which includes comments. It includes, I forget the exact word, but you usually have other employees who understand multiple roles, so they understand someone else's role, so that when that person goes on vacation or that person leaves the company, somebody can vet and check that that person is following the proper protocols, procedures, and practices, so that they can vet through any of their code, any of their mistakes. And it's mainly used in like banking and accounting to make sure that nobody is laundering money, stealing money, or anything like that. Because if somebody goes on vacation, it gives them a chance to check through their work. And also, you have to understand someone else's role to be able to thoroughly check someone else's work, and so they don't scathe by with any new tricks or trickery to steal money. So obviously that wasn't happening here. They didn't have any hardware safeguards in place to prevent things like this from happening, and they sent out one of their techs in which they have now compromised the integrity of that tech, who had his assumption and his analysis of what was going wrong. He's wrong, and so that now they put his integrity into question.
A month after they upgraded all Therac 25s, another accident occurred. This time, it was at a hospital in Washington, and the patient was badly hurt. When the hospital staff sent a letter to AECL Medical once again, they responded with a letter detailing the reasons why radiation overdose was impossible. But just a few weeks after AECL said they weren't at fault, something happened in a hospital in Texas that held the key to finally solving the mystery. Malfunction 54.
Gosh.
It was March 21st, 1986. Ray Cox was undergoing radiation therapy at the East Texas Cancer Center in Tyler. This was Ray's 9th treatment session, so he knew the drill. He was guided into the treatment room by a technician who helped him get settled on the Therac 25 table. After Ray was positioned, the technician moved to the next room where the control computer was set up. She pressed a few buttons on the computer and the Therac 25 turned on, starting the radiation treatment. But as soon as it powered up, Ray realized something was wrong. Instead of the quiet hum of the machine, he saw a flash of blue light and felt a burning sensation on his shoulder. The machine also began to make a strange buzzing noise, a sound that Ray never heard in any of his previous treatments. Ray rolled off the table and called for help. When the hospital staff arrived, Ray explained what happened to him on the table. It sounded like he was given too much radiation. However, when they checked the machine, it showed no signs of an overdose as usual. But the case was reported to Fritz Hager, the staff physicist at the hospital. It was his job to ensure that the radiation doses were safe. After what happened to Ray, Fritz looked into the problem. The technician who ran the machine during Ray's treatment remembered seeing a weird message pop up on the screen. Malfunction 54. It was an error code she'd never seen before, but little did they know this error message would be the answer they've been looking for. Fritz contacted the machine's manufacturer, AECL Medical, but this time they lied. AECL insisted that the Therac 25 couldn't deliver an overdose and that no other accidents had occurred previously, which was obviously completely false. ACL tried to shift the blame, suggesting that the hospital might have an electrical problem that messed up Ray's treatment. However, Fritz Hager was far more stubborn than anyone AECL has ever dealt with, and he wasn't satisfied with their explanation. He called the company again and demanded they send engineers to test the machine. Reluctantly, AECL Medical agreed, and 2 engineers arrived in Texas a few days later. But no no matter what the engineers tried, they couldn't replicate the error. The mysterious malfunction 54 never appeared again. Meanwhile, Ray Cox, the man from the accident, passed away, becoming another victim. And 3 weeks later, another patient passed away. Fritz Hager was furious. As the hospital's staff physicist, he felt responsible for the 2 lives lost on his watch. Fritz knew there was something wrong, and he was determined to prove it. The truth exposed. Fritz couldn't stop thinking about the Therac 25. He was obsessed with figuring out why it was hurting patients. He had only one lead. In both cases, when the accidents occurred, the machine displayed a malfunction 54 message. But malfunction 54 was not mentioned in the Therac 25 manual, so what was it? Hager decided to investigate by creating the conditions under which the incident occurred. Fritz and his radiotherapy technician locked themselves in the radiotherapy control room, working into the night and through the weekend to try to reproduce the problem. As they tried to trigger malfunction 54, Hager noticed something important. The malfunction 54 error only popped up when they changed the machine's settings quickly. That's why the engineer's AECL Sen didn't encounter the error. They were operating the machine slowly. To trigger the overdose, you needed to type quickly, the kind of speed that an experienced operator might have. Fritz realized the coding error was a race condition, a glitch that happens when multiple processes try to run at once. In the case of the Therac 25, the race condition was triggered by the operator adjusting the machine's settings rapidly, causing it to deliver a full power electron beam when it should have delivered a low dose X-ray beam. This also explains why the Therac 25 worked for years without any problems. When it was new, technicians took their time using it. However, as they became more familiar with the machine, they used it so fast that they accidentally triggered the race condition. Fritz practiced and was eventually able to produce malfunction 54 at will. That's when he reported his findings to AECL Medical. He explained how the machine delivered a dangerous dose of radiation even though the software indicated that the treatment was normal. AECL was reluctant to accept this theory. They were convinced the malfunction was due to operator error. It took several phone calls before AECL was able to replicate the same error on their lab machine. At that point, the company couldn't deny it any longer. The Therac 25 had a coding error. This meant everything that happened so far was all their fault. And when the news got out, all hell broke loose. ACL was hit with lawsuits from the victims' families. They wanted compensation, but more than that, they wanted justice. The lawsuits were settled out of court. They settled quietly to avoid the bad press and damage to the company's reputation. But that didn't work, because in May of 1986, the FDA labeled the Therac 25 as defective and ordered
Good. I'm glad, man, but it's so sad that 6 victims had to pass away due to this, and that the company was hiding information and purposefully didn't even want to check it out, and were so resistant in having techs come out there and check it out, and a physicist in his tech had to spend their weekend trying so many different combinations to recreate this issue, and the company wasn't even trying. They were like, yeah, we know about it, we're not going to do anything about it, just don't tell anybody, we're going to keep this on the low, keep it quiet, even though we know that 2 people have died from it. We're just going to blame the hospitals. Oh, your electricity is wrong. Oh, your operators didn't do it properly. Oh, all these extra problems, and we're just going to shut up about it and allow other hospitals to continue to use this machine. Oh, you found out? Oh, you want to sue us? Okay, we're going to sell it out of court to maintain and make sure that our business's name and our reputation isn't ruined based off these findings. And yeah, we were able to recreate it, but we still don't want any of this information to get out. And it shows how money hungry the healthcare system has been, because this is 1986 and we're in 2024, almost 2025, and many people are having the same issues with our healthcare system, especially here in America. And it's been going on for 40 years almost? And I bet even before then. This is
all machines to be shut down for a full investigation. The machine was pulled from hospitals and shipped back to ACL. This should have been the end of the Therac 25's dangerous run, but this break was only temporary. ACL, desperate to salvage its reputation, worked quickly to fix the bug that caused the overdoses. After fixing it, they convinced some faculties to take the machine back and use it again. For a brief period, the machine returned to hospitals and treatments resumed. But in January 1986, 1987, another accident happened at Yakima Valley Hospital in Washington. The patient passed away 3 months later. This was the 6th victim. This new accident revealed an entirely different bug in the code, one that hadn't been caught by earlier fixes. The company was in shambles, and in 1988, AC Medical shut down. The Therac 25 disaster will go down as one of the worst software bugs in history. The machine is long gone, but its legacy will live on. The good news is that it pushed for stricter regulations in medical device software and has taught companies not to ignore complaints. Today, this catastrophe is studied in classrooms as a reminder of how bad things can happen when software isn't tested properly. In a world increasingly reliant on machines, we can't lose sight of the human responsibility we carry. Visual Venture.
That was an amazing video. Make sure y'all go check out this guy's channel. Let me get the channel up there. This guy's channel is Visual Venture. Make sure you go check his channel out. He has some other great videos on there. Guys, let me know down below in the comments your thoughts. I think this is heroic. Not heroic. This is horrific. Excuse me. It's horrific. And I commend the physicist who actually spent time to go and solve this problem. And he was a pest to AECL, and he really fought for his patients, whether they were still alive or no longer with us. I also think the hospital, as a hospital, why would you ever take this machine back after 5 people have died from it and try it still? What? So I'm gonna go to a restaurant, right? And they got this soup in which I know 5 people have reportedly gotten food poisoning and died from it. I'm gonna go there and order the soup. What? This is crazy. This is ridiculous. I think that hospital should be sued. All the other hospitals, they didn't know, they had misinformation, but that hospital that took it back and that 6th victim died from it, that hospital should be sued along with the company. So guys, let me know down below your thoughts in the comments. I'm out of here. Peace.